You know, when you really look at the US Constitution, at its very core, there's this really powerful, maybe even a little cynical, idea about people. It's a concept that was designed to solve one of the toughest problems out there: how to build a government. And that's exactly what we're going to dig into today.
So here's the big question, right? How do you build a government that's actually strong enough to work, but doesn't become a threat to the very people it's supposed to protect? I mean, think about it. History is just littered with examples of that exact thing happening. So how do you give a government teeth without it turning into a monster? It's a puzzle that's been around for ages.
Well, the founders of the American government had a fascinating answer. They figured, hey, instead of trying to deny human nature, why don't we harness it? They zoomed in on one really powerful, fundamental human trait: ambition. You know, that drive for power, for influence. And they saw it as this two-sided coin. It could be the poison, but believe it or not, it could also be the cure.
And this is where it all clicks into place. Here's the big idea, straight from James Madison in the famous Federalist Paper number 51. This one sentence, this is basically the engine driving the whole system. The idea wasn't to find perfect, angelic leaders. Nope. The goal was to build a system that just assumes people in power will be ambitious and look out for themselves.
Okay, so let's break that down. What does counteract really mean here? It's actually pretty simple. Think of a game of tug of war. You've got one strong team pulling one way. How do you stop them from winning? Well, you get an equally strong team pulling the exact opposite way. The forces cancel each other out, right? That's what Madison wanted. He wanted to build a government that was basically a permanent tug of war, hardwired right into its structure.
Now, you have to understand, this was a huge shift in thinking. I mean, the old way was to try and fight ambition, right? To just hope and pray you'd find these perfectly virtuous leaders who wouldn't be tempted by power. But this new idea was way more realistic. It was all about channeling that ambition. Instead of fighting human nature, you make it fight itself. You pit the ambition of one part of the government against the ambition of another. It's brilliant, really. You use the thing you're afraid of as its own check.
And this wasn't just some philosophical coffee shop talk. No, this became the actual blueprint for the US government. I mean, just think about it for a second. The president's veto power, that's one branch stopping another. Congress controlling the money, the power of the purse, same thing. The courts striking down laws, you see the pattern? Each one is a specific tool, a weapon, if you will, given to one ambitious group to keep the other ambitious groups in line.
So the logic here is pretty straightforward. Step 1, you admit that ambition can be dangerous. Step 2, you design a whole system where that ambition has no choice but to compete with other ambition. And step 3, the result, and this is the really wild part, it's not chaos. The big paradox is that all this built-in conflict, all this friction, actually makes the government stronger and more stable. It makes it much harder for any one part to take over. All right, so that makes sense, right? The system is designed to check itself from the inside. The different branches are always keeping an eye on each other. But that brings up a huge question, a really big one. What happens if the entire government, all the branches working together, starts to go off the rails? What's the final backstop? What's the ultimate check on the government itself? And the answer, it's right there at the beginning of the Constitution. It might just be the 3 most powerful words ever written in American politics. The ultimate check on government power doesn't come from inside the government, it comes from the outside. It's us, the citizens. This whole incredible structure with all its clever checks and balances. At the end of the day, it all comes down to the power of the people. So, let's wrap this up. What are the big takeaways here? First, that great government design starts with being honest about human nature. Second, you can actually build a system where the internal parts check and balance each other out. And third, and this is the most important one, the ultimate power, the final safeguard, isn't some rule buried in a book. It's the people. And all of this leaves us with a really important question for right now, for today. I mean, this blueprint is over 200 years old. Does it still work? In our world of intense political division and 24/7 social media, can a system that was built to channel ambition still protect us when that ambition gets supercharged? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me for this one.